Good evening. Leading our news bulletin for tonight, low numbers utilising the midweek flight is not of concern yet, says Honourable Premier Toke Talangi. Premier Talangi said the second service is just the beginning and government might look at changes to the service.
Fortnightly service may not necessarily be the best way to handle this. So therefore we'll be looking at a weekly second service starting next year. We need to allow this period to go through for another 2 to 3 months, determine from there whether the factors that are impacting on the numbers that are flying through are to do with the fact that it's once every fortnight, whether sufficient promotions have been put in place to allow for that, and some of the other factors that we need to determine how can we improve the loadings on that service. But we're not going to necessarily just pull away from it simply because at the beginning, 1 or 2 months, the numbers have not been as high as we would wish.
Premier Talangi said he will start to worry if no one uses the second flight service.
It's only, a month? 2 months at the most. So it's not surprising that this new approach or new flight is not being well patronised. But we're also now starting to recognise that people, for example, from Hakupu came for the show day and are leaving today, for example. So it's starting to get into the people's understanding that they can use a second service for the type of things that they might be interested in. Come here for 4 days or go away for 4 days and come back again and so on. So I suspect that over time we will continue to increase the number of people using second service. The other thing is that a fortnightly service may not necessarily be the best way to handle this. So therefore we'll be looking at a weekly second service starting next year.
Even though the midweek flight is not recording high numbers, the Friday service continues to arrive and depart the island with high numbers. Senior government officials and heads of departments are in training this week on policy analysis and communication. The training requested by the New Public Service Commission looks at ways to help build capacity and strengthen the ability of senior public officials to analyze and utilize policies. The sessions have been facilitated by advisors from the Pacific Island Centre for Public Administration, that is a fairly new agency with policy analysis at the centre of capacity training.
Policy analysis is at the center of decision making. I mean, if we get a good quality analysis, and of course, it will go up to the decision makers, cabinet or minister in particular, and of course, it adds value to their decisions. So that's why it's very important that they manage to attend the workshop. So we managed to work some things out.
It is very important for senior government officials and decision makers to understand these policies within their departments and to be able to communicate these policies to the community. According to a participant at the training, it has been beneficial to understand how to utilize policies and the importance of analysis to making better policies.
There's quite a number of issues, and one of those, of course, is the lack of information that is relevant for policy analysis. So we discuss and talk about ways on how to overcome such a problem. And of course, the feasibility side, the lack of finance and all those things, which are, it's not just something that's, specific for Niue, and all of the Pacific Island countries also face the same constraints. So we managed to address those and look at ways of how to move on from there.
It is hoped that there will be further training in the future. The workshop concluded today. Concerns over septic waste could deteriorate as the only truck that services the clearance around the island awaits a part from New Zealand for repair. According to the Director of Environment, Sauni Tongatule, the part to fix the broken truck missed the boat and was expected to be sent by air freight last week. However, it was offloaded in Auckland due to its weight. He said they hope that the air service can freight the part on Friday. Otherwise, the next option will be sea freight that is due in a few more weeks. Mr. Tongatule said they had hoped for an extra vehicle to service the island as the current truck has been in service since Cyclone Hata. Though high hopes the part will arrive on Friday, Those with septic problems might have to wait a little longer for the arrival of the boat. This morning, Broadcasting Corporation opened its doors for a women's workshop on broadcasting with trainer Grant Walker from New Zealand. The workshop, to encourage more community participation in broadcasting and to introduce the women groups to media participation, received most of the women from the Council of Women and a couple more from Women in Business. The aim is to teach women how to speak, act and present themselves on radio and public speaking. Mr. Walker, who is the voice of many programs in New Zealand, including the Deep Voice and Dancing with the Stars, has spent many years presenting programs like Sale of the Century, Lotto and many others. Tomorrow, the youth groups on the island have a session especially allocated to youths who are interested in broadcasting or public speaking before the radio, television and workshops will be held next week. Old folks 75 years and over were yesterday treated to a special annual event hosted by Nevat at Talo's restaurant in Paliasi. Even though not many of the old folks are still with us, they were known yesterday as the Peninas of Niue, or treasures of the island, who got to tell their stories in song and dance, and a chance to meet up with old friends and also to launch a book created from the event last year. Some of the old folks we spoke to said the event is a good social outing and more activities like yesterday should be hosted to enable the elderly to engage with each other. One suggested the event should also include the participation of young children from primary school to hear of their grandparents' stories not told at home and learn of the lessons from yesteryears. One of the organisers of the event, Kimray Vaha, said their team would like to acknowledge the assistance of the elderly who have contributed to the development of Niue, and it is important also for everyone on the island to recognise the tremendous efforts they have endured to bring Niue thus far. The annual event allows those 75 years and above to reminisce of the days gone, but reflect on the present and future generations. The event is made possible by Nevat and the many sponsors and contributors to the event. They also wish to express deep gratitude to those who continue to assist with the annual event. And those are our news stories that we have here for this evening. We do hope that you have an enjoyable weekend ahead until you can join us again for our next news bulletin on Tuesday.